The time for 9,000 meters, 25 minutes, 45 and 8/10 seconds. They're going to break the Olympic record if they continue on this pace. It's a slow track, although it's a wonderful day for running. It's cool here in National Stadium. The crowd is roaring. 80,000 people are almost out of their seats watching these runners. Clark is back in the lead. Clark of Australia, followed by Gamoudi of Tunisia. Mills of the USA is in third position. Mills is staying, and now Mills once again is making his move. Clark refuses to let Mills go around him. They're battling for the championship of the world. They're battling shoulder to shoulder. They're knocking men off the track. They had to move a man. Clark moves out in front. And now here comes Gamoudi of Tunisia. He takes the lead, followed by Clark of Australia. You can't believe it. They've run almost 10,000 meters, and they are literally shoulder to shoulder. Gamoudi of Tunisia is moving now. He's making his move. Clark is trying to stay with him. Gamoudi is sprinting. He's coming off the curve. They're about to finish the race. There's only 100 meters left. Gamoudi is out in front. No, Clark is taking him. No, Gamoudi is staving off the challenge. Clark is sprinting. Gamoudi is out in front by you. Here comes Mills of the USA. Mills of the USA. He won. He won. Followed by Gamoudi and Clark. New Olympic record. 28 minutes, 24 and 1/10 seconds. What a fantastic victory for the United States. We've just seen one of the most spectacular races in the history of the Olympic Games.
Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to The Extra Mile. My name is Gene Gurkoff. It's a beautiful day here in Montclair, New Jersey, and what an honor it is to share today's interview with you. What you just listened to was Bob Richards, two-time Olympic gold medalist in the pole vault, and the first person on the cover of a Wheaties box, doing radio commentary for ABC during the 1964 Olympics in Tokyo, calling the 10,000-meter race, which was won by today's guest, Billy Mills. Billy Mills was born in 1938 and grew up on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, home to the Oglala Lakota Nation. Billy had a very difficult childhood, losing his mother, sister, and father by the age of 12. He turned to running as both an escape and a source of discipline. After his father's passing, Billy attended the Haskell Institute, a U.S. government-run boarding school for Native American children. As Billy explains in this interview, Haskell and other schools like it were set up as part of the treaties between the U.S. government and Native American tribes. They were essentially part of the deal for Native Americans to accept peace. The Native Americans would give up their land, and the U.S. government would provide schools for their children. We should recognize, though, that these schools were also part of a broader federal policy aimed at assimilating Indigenous youth into mainstream American culture. They were controversial for their forced assimilation, physical and emotional abuse, and systematically trying to erase their students' Indigenous identities. Billy, though, had a positive experience at Haskell, where he met his coach, Tony Coffin, who became somewhat of a father figure to him. Coffin recognized Billy's talent and helped nurture his running abilities, providing him with the foundation that would later lead to his collegiate and Olympic success. Also during his time at Haskell, Billy spent one of his summers as a counselor at Camp Greylock in Beckett, Massachusetts, which is the summer camp that I went to many years later and is a very important part of my life. So it's very special for me to share this link with Billy. At Haskell, Billy won multiple state championships in track and cross country, earning him a scholarship to the University of Kansas, where Billy would be coached by Bill Easton. Easton was a highly respected track and field coach who led Kansas to multiple NCAA championships, and at Kansas, Billy was one of the best distance runners in the country. He was a three-time All-American, won multiple Big 8 titles, and was runner-up in the 1960 cross-country championships. Through all of this, however, Billy faced numerous challenges, including discrimination at every level, including from Easton, hypoglycemia, and struggles with self-doubt. At times, Billy even contemplated suicide, and in his senior year, he walked off the track and quit the team completely. Fortunately for Billy, the University of Kansas is also where he met and began dating a young woman named Patricia Pat Collins. Pat played a crucial role in Billy's journey, supporting him through the challenges he faced as an athlete and as a Native American navigating the world of elite sports. After graduating Kansas, Billy married Pat, joined the U.S. Marine Corps, and resumed training with the goal of not just making the U.S. Olympic team and not just winning a medal, but winning the gold medal in the 10K, which he did. In 1964, Billy qualified for the Tokyo Olympics in the 10,000-meter race, where he stunned the world with a historic come-from-behind victory, becoming the first and still the only American, or even the only person from the Western Hemisphere, to win the gold medal in the event. He also remains the only Native American other than Jim Thorpe to win a gold medal in the Olympics. His triumph is considered one of the greatest Olympic upsets and victories of all time. Since Billy's victory in the 1964 Tokyo Games, Billy and Pat have dedicated their lives to giving back, co-founding Running Strong for American Indian Youth, an organization that empowers Indigenous communities through health, education, and self-sufficiency programs. Their journey is one of perseverance, cultural pride, and spreading a message of unity through diversity. Before we jump into the interview, I want to give another huge thanks to our partners at Brooks Running. For over a century, Brooks has been propelled by a never-ending curiosity with how humans move. It drives their every decision and every innovation because they believe movement is the key to feeling more alive, and we're all moving towards something. It could be the top of a mountain, a first ever 5K, peace of mind after a stressful day, or an Olympic gold medal. It could be a cure for Parkinson's, a cleaner planet, or the strength that comes from our diversity. So let's run there, with gear and experiences specifically designed to take you to that place. Whether it's a headspace, a feeling, or a finish line, let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more. Huge thanks to Brooks for their support. Huge thanks to Billy and Pat for sharing so much with us. And huge thanks to all of you for joining us. Now, wherever you are, turn up your volume and turn on your charity miles and come along for the walk or run with Billy and Pat Mills. Every mile matters.
You don't really know who you are or what you are until you put a really big challenge in front of you.
Fear is an asset and ally here to help you be magnificent.
This crazy, silly, stupid idea to run across the Sahara Desert.
You did make it this time, but you said if you didn't make it, you would try again and again.
Everybody's connected to nature, connected to music, to their families, and now we're going to build a world that doesn't have racism and war and starving kids.
I kept telling myself, run at me, and just keep smiling.
Okay, we're here with Mr. Billy Mills and Patricia. Thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to meet both of you.
Well, we're excited. We've had opportunities to travel, and I feel very strongly that the voice of diversity throughout the world has to be heard. And I think you've been involved with your work, the voice of diversity.
Well, thank you.
Different parts of the world.
Excellent. So I hope that we'll get into some of that and more about what you mean by diversity and unity through diversity and your experiences traveling the world. But just to start and paint the picture for people who might not know who Billy Mills is, can you introduce yourself and share your story with our community?
Absolutely. I grew up on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota, predominantly Lakota, known as Sioux, and part of my earlier footprints that helped me when I was born. My great-grandfather, B.B. Mills, an Englishman with a little bit of Scottish, was involved in the first cattle drive from Texas to Wyoming and Montana when the buffalo was being systematically killed off to starve the various tribes that had not surrendered into submission. He married a Lakota woman. My great-grandmother, Chief Red Cloud of the Lakota, asked the U.S. officials if B.B. Mills could become the first Indian agent, which would be the Red Cloud Agency, now Pine Ridge, South Dakota. They said no. He speaks fluent Lakota, married a Lakota woman, has Lakota children, the youngest 3 months old, and it would be too hard to take the Indian out of the person to save the person. And he died 3 months later. So my grandmother, great-grandmother, with her 5 children, the youngest 3 months old, who was to be my grandfather. They found their way and lived with Crazy Horse's band, one of 3 of the indigenous people who had not surrendered yet. And so my grandfather was with Crazy Horse's band during the Battle of the Little Bighorn. Wow. And I find that so exciting that he was a hunter and gatherer as this little boy. When Crazy Horse didn't surrender, he was bringing his band in to live under the treaty rights. Then he was going to go anywhere in the world where he wanted to go. And he told the government officials, with the help of the Creator, he could accept eternal peace and live in peace. And I don't know how I read this. I didn't hear it oral history. I read it in written history. He looked in some people's eyes. And he said, when I look into your eyes, I see your universe. When you are at the center of your universe, I am at the center of my universe. We are one. We can live in peace. And I choose to go anywhere I want to go. They said no. 3 or so months later, he was murdered. As I learned those footprints, they empowered me even more so to talk about unity through diversity. So for those who want to know about me, that's kind of become my wife and I's mission statement. Just, we're all related. So that's kind of my life and where I've come from thinking, as I'm half white and half Lakota, and a citizen of the Lakota Nation, and a proud citizen of the United States of America, with deep belief in this democratic experiment. But it's an experiment. And experiments, as the nuclear scientist I talked to recently told me, they work on it until it's perfected. So we have to do the same with this democratic experiment. If we believe in it, we have to work on it until it's perfected. And my wife and I put our lives into trying to help perfect some of the flaws.
I'd love to just go a little bit on your journey for the people listening of what your life was like from Pine Ridge as a child and to Haskell, Navy to Camp Greylock, if we get to that, Navy to, and then, to the University of Kansas and to the Olympics.
I would say that my world there began when my mother died. I was 8 years old, about ready to turn 9, and I didn't know her that well. She spent 5 years, and then 8 years old,
My son's
in the hospital.
Wow.
Had tuberculosis, had cancer, but I left her. I didn't see her that often. I missed her. And there we had our special moments when she'd come home from the hospital, and she died, and my world fell apart. And my dad told me my wings were broken. He said, "You have broken wings, son. And it takes a dream to heal broken wings." What he was telling me became such a powerful influence on me. He said, a dream takes you down a path, and you'll have many dreams in your life. They'll change, they'll mature, but a dream takes you down a path to where you find a passion in life. You develop the skills to equal that passion, bring them together, and magic is created. Magical things are created. And one or two of the magical things you do in your life just may be looked upon as a miracle. He started telling me that, speak to me in those words, 9, 10, 11, 12. He'd wake up in the middle of the night and say, son, you have to walk me to the hospital. We didn't have a car. A blizzard, summer months, a thunderstorm, lightning, or just a hot, humid night. I'd walk him to the hospital. Once we got there, he's put on a gurney. They take him away from me. He waves, etc. They always made my daddy well. Not one adult thought about taking this little 10, 11, 9-year-old boy a mile and a half to his home. Snowstorm, the lightning, so I'd run home and scared every bit of the way. And this time it was different. It was I believe it was Sunday afternoon, and he was cutting a friend's hair. He stopped, we had an outside toilet, and he said, "Come get me to the bathroom." And he's heavy, one arm's over my neck. I'm stumbling. He goes and comes back, gets him back to the house. He washes his hands and his face, a little basin of water. He said, "You have to find me a ride this time, son. I don't know if I can make it walking." So I begged 3 or 4 adults, some of them relatives, to take my dad to the hospital. We can't walk there. They all refused. They were busy. So I'm back and I'm scared now. I'm crying. I said, "Daddy, I can't find you a ride." He said, "Don't worry about it, son. We made it before walking. We'll do it again." So we take off. We get maybe 30 yards. My sister's coming back from town. Our car pulled up and said, we'll take Sidney to the hospital. Nobody helped me get him in the back seat. I get him in the back. I start to get in. He stopped. I said, "No, son." I said, "This is my journey. You just follow your dream." And I knew what was happening. An hour and a half later, they told me that my dad died. And my world came tumbling down. I was not ready yet as a young boy for the races and that I would find. With him, I could handle it. We'd sit at a restaurant in Hot Springs, South Dakota, for 35, 40 minutes. Nobody wanted to have a couple in there. And before they'd bring us a menu. And he would say, "Not everybody's that way, son." He told me actually, look at people's eyes. Because if they're good people, look at their smile. Either their eyes or their smile will take you to their soul. You'll know that they're good people. And I would say, I don't know, how am I going to tell? He said, just their eyes or their smile. They'll take you to the center of their soul, and you will know, you will feel that goodness. So I've done that the rest of my life. But those were such powerful words in the way that he prepared me. My dad would get me out of school to go fishing. I thought it was because I was his buddy for fishing. Found out later it was in case he had a stroke. And I laughed with tears, saying, well, that's special that he chose me, this little boy, to go run for help. And I left for Haskell Indian School. And it was the first time I was away from the reservation that far. But I met multitudes of other tribes. And it was really a beautiful experience.
And for people who don't know, what is the Haskell School?
And Haskell Indian School is based on the treaties. We are probably the only group of indigenous people throughout the world that signed a treaty with the United States government. We fight no more. In lieu of the lands you've taken, you must provide a schoolhouse and a teacher for every 30 of our people who want to learn your way, for a minimum of 20 years per child. I've had people say, you grew up really on welfare. I've never been on welfare, but I've been on treaties, going to Haskell Indian School.
But these schools are fairly controversial. I'm curious what your experience was like at Haskell.
Yeah, the schools, immediately, Carlisle Indian School,
Yeah,
Jim Pork,
that's where Jim Thorpe went.
they promised they would not cut the braid, because the men would order a braid if you commit to live the virtues and the values of the people. And the braid reminds you daily, I'm committed to living virtues and values. But as the wagons were leaving the campus, you could hear the young boys screaming as they're cutting their braids. What the early boarding schools did was to strip everything that was indigenous. So they were being stripped of virtues and values, be left with a void that you reject. And the schools were brutal in many ways, but yet were educating you in a new world. So what was created from this? And maybe I can explain it this way. The treaties were broken. The schools became very violent toward the indigenous people. It created trauma. And our leaders, 6 generations back, said it will take 7 generations for our people under these conditions to adjust to a new world. But Haskell, for me, was as close to an ideal situation as you could find.
Interesting.
I was blessed. I didn't experience any of that. My high school coach was like my father.
This is Tom Coughlin?
Tony Coughlin.
Tony Coughlin.
He's talking to the boys in the gymnasium, and he said, one of you just might do something special in sport. And the football players, my brother is one of them, they're kind of flexing and looking at one another. And he said, I don't mean you undefeated football players, you undefeated, won the state, and was second in track at the state. Might be one of you 2 little guys. And I was 5'2", 104 pounds, but I was not the smallest. Carl Pierce, who we called him Monster in high school, we look at each other. And I took that to heart because that's the way my dad would talk to me. And coming out of high school, I was ranked number 2 in the nation. So I had scholarship offers coming in. But my college coach, we would have our meetings, and he'd say, what would you like to do? I'd say, well,
This is Coughlin or this is Easton?
No, I'm in college.
This is Kansas.
This is to Bill Easton. What would you like to do? And I remember telling him, I want to make the Olympic team. And he goes back now. In these meetings like this, what we need to do is be realistic. Let's be realistic. And he said, you have low self-esteem, orphaned, minority, grew up in poverty. You have to learn how to deal with those issues. And I said, I don't have low self-esteem.
You're the one saying that you want to be in the Olympics. That doesn't sound like low self-esteem.
And he said, you falter. You give up in races. Well, graduated in college, did fairly well in college.
Did very well in college.
And joined the Marine Corps, went to the Naval Academy to work out, and I found the coach that put me on the Olympic team, Tommy Thompson Sr., totally deaf for 28 years of that 30 years he coached at the Naval Academy, gold medalist, world record holder in the high hurdles, 1920. He started watching me, and he would say, Lieutenant, you got something there. And I was like, wow, my dad would say that to me. So he helped me get out to Camp Pendleton. And he said, I'm so glad you're here. I've been hoping, but let's get started now. What would you like to do? What are your goals? So now I'm thinking of Coach Easton. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to say? So I was really gentle. I said, Tommy, I want to make the Olympic team. He goes, I know that. What do you want to do at the games? So I looked at Pat, the first person I opened up to. I said, I want to win a medal. He said, why a medal? So I said, don't you think I can? He said, I believe you. But why a medal? You go for a medal, you may end up fifth. Give up for the gold, you give up the silver, you're working for the bronze, and you end up fifth. So I said, well, I've been posting on my refrigerator at home, gold medal, 10,000 meter run. He said, okay, now we know what we're working for. And he simply said, you have just a little time. This was February 19th, 1964. October 14th was the games. That might be 8 months because he said, we've got 8 months to work, but we got a way to go. And he knew 3 months earlier, I crashed as a young Marine. They sent me to the doctor. And I said to the doctor, I know what you're going to tell me. He said, what, Lieutenant? I have low self-esteem, and I don't. He said, Lieutenant, I know you don't have low self-esteem. I said, how do you know already? He said, damn it, you're a Marine. Marines don't have low self-esteem. So he said, I want to test you for diabetes. So he tested me and said, you go high, you drop drastically. And you have all the symptoms of going into a diabetic coma. And that happens at the end of your races, most likely.
So you raced like all of high school and college and all the things that you were doing and all those achievements that you had, you were hypoglycemic and you didn't know it.
I told Pat, well, I'll say it with Pat's answer. I told Pat, if I knew how to handle insulin nova or diabetic like they do today, the knowledge they have, instead of one world record, how about a match Clark record for record? Clark had 18. I think I could have had at least 15 world records. That's when she said, my God, you're 3.5 years from 90. Let it go. Let it go.
All right. So we're almost at your story, part of your story where we come to the Olympics. We're just about there. But if you don't mind, I do want to take a quick rewind and detour just to indulge myself here to find out where Camp Greylock comes into your story. Because as we were talking, Camp Greylock is a very important part of my life. And I got a lot of my virtues and values from Camp Greylock. I'm not sure how big a part of your life it was, but you did spend a summer there. And I would love to know how you ended up at Camp Greylock and what that experience was like for you.
Yeah. I remember, I think I was a sophomore in high school. And a counselor came to me, a boys counselor, and said, how would you like to go to a camp? I said, Camp Greylock for boys. He gave me information about it. It sounded exciting. He said, they want somebody to teach the Indian culture 1 night a week or so. And I said, well, I can do that, but it would not be the type of culture that they,
Right.
the dancing, etc. It'd be what I've been talking about.
Right.
Which probably would not have worked back then. But it also would give me a chance to implement, in a sense, what my dad was teaching me. You have a dream. Take the dream down a path. You find a passion in life. Develop skills to equal the passion. Bring them together. Magic happens. And I could learn about half of me. I'm half white. I'm half Indian. I know nothing about the white world other than ways I've been treated. I was a little apprehensive because I'd faced racism, So what Gabriela did for me was help me start trying to implement what my dad would say. Take the virtues and values of your culture, place those virtues and values with another society's culture, find common ground, find parallels, then you can understand the differences. And I was doing that, and the basic difference I found was we had same virtues and values. The only difference was an economic status.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, the kids at Camp Greylock were probably, upper middle class and Jewish white kids from, the New York tri-state area.
Yeah.
And
the counselors, the other counselors were so gentle. So there were two of them just trying to help me, trying to make sure that I was comfortable.
That's nice to hear.
And including me. And in fact, one of them was always saying, we're getting dates tonight. You want a date? And I said, I don't think so. No, so I just was uncomfortable the first time in a totally white world. And I didn't know the diversity of the group that I was there. But I was intrigued. And it just kind of set me on that course. And since then, I've enjoyed sitting down in different societies and finding common ground. I'll give you two examples. With Muhammad Gawudi, 2012 in London. And he said, Billy, I've always wanted to tell you this. Do you remember what I told you in Belgium when I beat you, 1963? I said, Muhammad, you told me I need more speed. He said, remember what I told you in Tokyo? I said, I do. He said, what did I say? Billy, too much speed.
And so for people who don't know, Muhammad Gawudi came in second place after you. He was a 64. And an incredible, so now we're at the Olympics. Maybe that brings us back to the Olympics, which is, and anybody listening can go on YouTube and watch the race. One of the most exciting races you can watch. And so I would love, because I've heard it and it's dramatic, and I've seen it and it's dramatic, if you could share your experience in Tokyo.
I'll do it this way, though, starting with Muhammad in 2012 in London. And he said, I always wanted to tell you this, Billy. I was so happy. I was thrilled. I was so happy when you won in Tokyo. I said, Muhammad, how could you be happy? I beat you. He said, no. You didn't beat me. You won. He said, there's a difference. Anybody who won a race in your manner, it had to be, and he goes, puts his palms out, open up, and he looks up toward the sky. So I said, Muhammad, do you mean to tell me that moment was a gift to me from Allah? And he goes, yes. And in your world, Billy, I know you're a Christian country, and I know you follow a cult of virtues and values. So maybe those virtues and values in Christianity, it was a gift to you in your world. But we understand each other's world, and we can talk to one another. So unity through diversity. So Muhammad beat me in Belgium. All you need is more speed. I practiced speed for a year. 2 days before the 10,000, my workout was 200 meters out of the blocks. A German coach timed me.
And this is in Tokyo?
In Tokyo, Japan, October 14th, 1964. 2 days before, I come out of the blocks, I'm staggering. I start over again, and he finally said, just come by a running start, just slow jogging. So I did, and I called across. Then I said, how fast? He said, not very fast. I said, what was my time? He said, 23:3. I go, yes. He said, what do you meant? I said, the 10,000 meters in the marathon He looked at the watch and said, whoa, very fast. So I knew I could go with anybody in the world in the 10K. The first time I rested up for a race all year. I knew I could go with anybody in the world, and I'd have a chance with the kick.
But somehow you were not really considered a favorite or even in the...
I was not considered...
At all?
At all. I was not considered at all, but I knew coming off of almost committing suicide and doing what my dad said, it takes a dream to heal broken wings. 2 years before, I wrote down the dream to heal broken wings. Gold medal, 10,000 meter run. God has given me the ability. The rest is up to me. Believe, 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 believe. As the gun goes off, you hear the gun. I didn't look up for the smoke. As the gun goes off, my thoughts were, I have to win this race. And it was so real. So Clark gets on world record pace. I'm in the pack. We're close to the 5,000 meter mark. We're still on world record pace. And it was like, I can't stay with them. I've got to slow the pace strategically. So it's still positive that I can win. So I took the lead. I'm leading at the halfway point. Start to slow the pace. Clark shoots past me. So it was just one lap at a time. I can do this lap. I can do this lap. And then I felt better. I was competitive. I was back in the race. 2 laps to go. People are screaming, cheering. You don't really hear it. You can feel it. I didn't hear it. And we're no longer on world record pace, but we're on Olympic record pace. And there's 4 of us left. Mohammed Gamoudi, Tunisia. Ron Clark, Australian. Mama Wolde, who won the marathon 4 years later, Ethiopia, and me. And the pace was too fast. So again, it's like I can't stay with them. Strategically, I've got to slow the pace. So I took the lead, started to slow. Clark shoots past me, picks up the pace for 30 yards. I go with him. He slowed the pace. A major signal. The pace is too fast per round also. Then, the last bell lap, there's a runner in front of us. Might be Temu, who won 4 years later, running barefooted on volcanic ash. And we're ready to lap him. Clark moves behind him. I read earlier where Clark lost the Commonwealth Games because he got boxed in. I thought, this can't be happening to Rod. I moved on his shoulder to box him in. As I got him boxed in, I was taken off. And he nudged me again. So I nudged him back. But he just came in underneath my arm and moved up, and I stumbled out. I don't think any of that was intentional. I think it was just the heat of the moment. And I stumbled out. I started to close the back of his shoulder. Gamoudi told me later, he said, I saw my friend Billy was in trouble, and Clark has to be out of focus after they bumped. It's time for me to strike. So Gamoudi took off. But I'm closing, and I close. I'm on Clark's shoulder, and Gamoudi didn't say, but he alluded to, if I slowly have to go around, I lose momentum. I think I can squeeze through. He did say, I think I can squeeze through. So he started to squeeze through and didn't bother me. Clark's push bothered me. But I'm going low blood sugar. The symptoms, like the sweat, is not free-flowing sweat, it's clammy. It's just, I'm going low blood sugar and I'm thinking, what do I do? And it was, I'm going to let them get maybe 10 yards ahead of me. And I'll make one final try coming off the curve. And it was positive. So I let them get, I thought, my God, they might be more than 10 yards. I've got to go now. I started pumping my arms, lifting my knees, lengthening my stride, and I knew Pat was about 90 meters, 85 meters up from the finish line. 14 rows up, 3 seats in from the aisle. So I could look up and see her, but I was not about to, because if she showed the slightest doubt, I was through. So I'm colding on them, but not enough. And then it's strange. It was like, I'm going to win, but I may not get to the finish line first. And it was so powerful. I'm going to win, but I may not get to the finish line first. But I'm going to try to get there first. And then past this German runner, I thought it was a German runner, and I thought I saw, as I glanced, an eagle in his jersey. My dad would say, you do these things, son, someday you could have wings of an eagle. So that was wings of an eagle. I can win, I can win. And right about where we go by Pat, it was wings of an eagle. I can win. And she knew about the suicide attempts. She knew the broken wings. She knew I was pursuing the Olympic gold medal to heal a broken soul. So, wings of an eagle, the side of the eagle, wings of an eagle, I can win, I can win. I felt the tape break across my chest. People are standing cheering. I could feel it, I couldn't hear it. It was almost like slow motion. They're cheering. This man came up to me, and I said, I have to find the German. I have to tell him the eagle on his singlet helped me win. I found who I thought was the German. There was no eagle. And it was like, my God, I've been battling perceptions. Perceptions can create you or destroy you. And then the official came back up and said, is there anything I can do for you? Anything else you want? And I simply said, I want my wife. And within moments, Pat said they're tapping her on the shoulder. Mrs. Mills, the new Olympic champion, requests his wife. They brought her down, we hugged, and unemotional. And eventually I said to her, I know what it meant. She said, what meant? I'm going to win, but I may not get to the finish line first. Pat, it meant I'll heal the broken soul. And in the process, I won an Olympic gold medal, but I healed a broken soul. And she comes with me to the press conference, and I remember somebody asking her, are you Native American also? And she still had her Southern accent, and she said, she pushes that up to say this. She said, no, I'm not a Native American. I'm just a little white girl. And that moment, it brought closure to the suicide attempts. One time afterwards, I thought of it, but it was so much more powerful knowing I would never do it, and that dreams can come true. And that inspired us in different ways, where Pat said she wants to try to do a movie on my life, because I was speaking to some groups and some students, and she said, Billy, there's something there. You're saying things that they took it to their heart, and that maybe many are experiencing what you've experienced. So she put the players together for the movie Running Brave.
Yeah.
And we had many people from throughout the world texting. We'd have women of Islamic faith text and say, do you think my dream can come true? Lessons of Lakota, trying to help people from generational trauma, deal with the generational trauma. Then Wings of an Eagle, where I've always felt every child in the classroom particularly our seventh generation, they need to know. They need to know that their dream will be supported. And they can vocalize it, it'll be supported. And if they can learn the dream of the student in the chair next to them, on either side, of diversity, know their dream, know their virtues and values, we're so much powerful as one. And that's kind of the journey we've taken in our life. And I wanted to fulfill what Oliver Red Cloud said to me. Billy, when you come back from the Olympic Games, you have to give back. In our culture, we have giveaways. If people empower you, you give back to the other people. You give back to the people that empowered you. It's a giveaway, Billy. It's time for you to have your giveaway.
Can you share with everybody what your Indian name is and what it means?
My Lakota name, when I came back from the Olympic Games, my tribe honored me. They gave me my Lakota name, Ta Makosha Tekahila, which means loves your country, or loves your land, or loves the people. Ta Makosha Tekahila, loves your country. And 3 elders, a grandson of Chief Red Cloud, the son of Black Elk, one of our very powerful spiritual leaders, and another gentleman by the name of Underbaggage. Underbaggage drummed, and they sang 2 songs that they gave me. And to be given a song in the manner they told me they gave me the songs, it's given so infrequently. It's given to those who for one day in their life, they brought honor to the entire tribe. And it's hard for me to say this, and then having these elders dance my deeds. The greatest honor bestowed upon me, and then having them encouraging me to continue pursuing. We're all related.
I think one of the reasons I wanted you to share your Lakota name is when I heard you in another podcast share that, I found it really interesting because if I were to, in my head, I don't know about you and I don't know about people out there, but in my head, imagine somebody wearing a t-shirt that says "Love Your Country." I would imagine a particular kind of person, maybe who's more conservative, with a red hat on. And if I were to picture somebody wearing a shirt that says "Love Your People," I might picture somebody that's more liberal.
Yeah.
At like a farmer's market with like a different type of shirt on. And so at first, coming into this conversation, I was wondering like how to understand that dichotomy. But in listening to the way that you tell your story, I'm hearing that it's not so much a dichotomy and a tension, but a marriage of those two concepts is what you're saying, which it's unity through diversity. It is the diversity of all of us. We're living in such a polarized society, polarized country, polarized world. But if we can realize that our diversity is a strength that can bring us together, not something that should be creating a polarization, that's your message.
There's dysfunction in many parts of America, from all societies. And I just look for the day we can accept the fact that we had slavery and the inhumane treatment of the innocent, and then go beyond that and sit in the classroom and not feel youngsters could be offended or ashamed of what they hear about their ancestors' footprints, but they can see the journey that was woven and see the power of one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're so close to liberty and justice for all. We cannot get there without compassion, without love, without truth.
You talked about how your journey towards a gold medal and winning the gold medal in that moment was almost even a cathartic, repairing your broken soul, right? I think those were the words that you used. And had you not won the gold medal, was it that moment that repaired the soul? Was it the journey to that moment that repaired the soul? And then how are you helping other people who right now have broken souls on their journey to repairing their soul?
That's a great question. Where the gold medal in our life today is really insignificant today. But the gold medal, the journey to get there, the journey is what empowered me. That. So I say the gold medal itself to patronize so far in our past. We use it for our voice to be heard.
Right.
But it's the voice that is heard hopefully can have meaning to humanity and all of the voice of our young people, the voice of the seventh generation. When I look at the seventh generation, it came from 6 generations of struggling as Indigenous people. Now their 7th generation is in the classroom. I look at that whole classroom is full of 7th generations. A person from Asia who's 6 generations back when my treaty was signed, what was happening in their world? 7th generations in the classroom has their footprints, their ancestors' footprints, the diversity, and that group has so much power, so much knowledge, so much strength, sacredness that they could contribute to empowering this democratic experiment.
Well, just to tie back into what you were saying about the journey, if it was the journey and the dream that helped you repair your broken wings, repair your broken soul. There's so many people in the country, in this world, whether they're Native American or not, that have broken wings. How would you recommend somebody go on that journey? How are you with running strong, helping people go on that journey?
I sat down with Lakota virtues and values, and I studied them. I studied compassion. And am I a compassionate person? What do I have to be to become more compassionate? And the first thing I thought of was, I have to be willing to listen. I have to be willing to understand why he or she is saying those words. And it's, how do we get back? So we decided to take the visions of the elders and the dreams of the youth and put those in a package and come up with a way in which we can empower Native American communities. So we asked Joe American Horse, the tribal chairman, who spent his period as our chief. Joe and I used to race each other. He went to the University of Nebraska, I at the University of Kansas, and we went to Joe when he was chairman of the tribe and said, if you'd listed 10 of your most urgent needs, we'd like to help you with one. what would it be? Chief Mayor Norris back then said one word, water. So he started drilling water wells. Some of the water wells were having to be capped because of the runoff of uranium from the mines in Nebraska. So we then started connecting every home on the Pine Ridge Reservation with water from the main water line that crosses the reservation. And just about every home now on the Pine Ridge Reservation has water. Plumbing, showering, cooking, the needs of providing water. So that would be to help the visions of the elders become more powerful because we're providing water. And one of our most powerful ones with Running Strong is our Dream Starters program. And if you look at our Dream Starters program, it is powerful. It started on the 50th anniversary of me winning a gold medal. I wanted to empower some of the dreams of our young people. My dream, winning the gold medal at Olympic Games to heal a broken soul, empowered me. So our Dream Starters program now is approaching its 10th year. And just one example, Dr. Haskell at Dakota, this young lady of the Dakota tribe was going to dental school. And her program was to recruit other people to dentistry. We were given $10,000 then, now we give $20,000. Well, she has now since recruited, she used her $10,000 to bring people in to expose them to the potential career of dentistry. Almost every of the 10 she brought in, some became dentists, others went into other levels of the health field. She then has had some of her dentists and some of those into the health field. They pursued their dream. They became some of our Dream Starters. Another young man, Noah Hitchcock, 12 years, 13 years of age, paralyzed from the waist down. His father, what an incredible father, taught him how to mono ski. And as a young 14-year-old, he wanted to empower the dreams of other Native Americans who were disabled, to help them live a more quality lifestyle. He became one of our Dream Starters. He and both Dr. Haskell, at the end of 5 years, they both received, with 3 others, a $50,000 grant to help their dream continue. Noah, in his first gathering with his $10,000, he expected maybe a half a dozen Native Americans would show up to learn how to live a more quality lifestyle. I think it was over 100. I don't know the exact figure. So the community had to stop in to feed them, etc., to house them. And he now has his own nonprofit, empowering other Native Americans to have a more quality lifestyle. Just this young man now has his college degree, just made All-American, wheelchair All-American. Just goes on with young people who have a dream to empower their community. Our Dream Starters program has been so powerful. And all I wanted to do was to honor and try to empower other young people that had a dream like I was empowered. And we're truly touching the minds of young people at a young age. And if they're hearing the cultural dreams of the elders, they're starting to form in their own mind a dream that can empower them and empower their community, and all contribute, without them even knowing it, to someone like Sitting Bull's dream when he surrendered before he was killed that said, let's take the best of both worlds and create a new world for our children. And my life, Crazy Horse has always been one of my heroes. And just hearing about Crazy Horse saying, when I look into your eyes, I see your universe. And when you're at the center of your universe, I'm at the center of mine. We can be one. I go back to my dad. I had no idea if my grandfather, who lived in Case Horse's camp during the Battle of the Little Bighorn, saw, I know, maybe Crazy Horse said to the Takosha, grandchild, get out of my way, But he saw the man, etc. So when my dad started saying, son, not everybody's that way. Not serving us in a restaurant. Just look at their eyes, look at their smile. Either the eyes or the smile or both will take you to the center of their soul, and you could tell that they're good people. Well, where did that come from? The Crazy Horse says, when I look into your eyes, and I see your universe, and you're at the center, I'm at mine, we can be one.
You talk about looking into someone's eyes and looking in their smile. And, I love doing this podcast, especially to meet someone like you, to hear everything that you've shared. And you've shared some very profound and, in some cases, heavy things with us today. But one of the things I don't like about a podcast is that people can't see you right now. And they can't see what I see right now. Maybe they can hear some of it. When you look into someone's eyes, you look into someone's smile, I wish that they could see the twinkle in your eyes and the genuine smile that you've had on your face in this entire conversation, talking about some pretty, like I said, profound and heavy things. And it's a special moment for me to be able to sit here with you and to experience this conversation in person. And I'm sure that we'll have to get a picture to put in the show notes so that people can see the eyes and the smile, because that adds a lot to the context and the meaning of everything that you're saying. And in a lot of ways, it actually reminds me a lot of my grandfather, which is very meaningful to me.
So let me share this with you, and if Pat approves of it, you can share with the audience listening.
Okay.
Or you may not to.
We usually don't edit these. If it's on tape, it's going to go in there.
If you just cut it off, and they'll never know. But if we want to tell it to you, we keep our balance in many, many ways. 63 years to marriage this January. So today the 17th? In 10 days is our 63rd wedding anniversary. So earlier this year, I was going to make it romantic. I said, Pat, I'll pick 2 songs that remind me of you in our journey. And you picked 2 songs that remind.
What were the songs?
So I picked Bette Midler, Wind Beneath My Wings. She's the wind beneath my wings. Then I was going to pick Johnny Mathis, The 12th of Never. I'll love you until the 12th of never. There's no 12th of never, so I love you forever. Instead, I picked Bette Midler's The Rose. And she got up and kissed me and said, that's so sweet. So I'm ready. I'm ready for her 2 songs.
Yeah, what are your 2 songs?
I wasn't ready to be humbled.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Wasted days and wasted nights.
Oh my God. But she has one more song.
Oh, what's the one more song?
The other one was 4 Walls Are Closing In on Me.
Perhaps. Well, I was going to ask, my grandparents were married over 60 years as well. And every year on their anniversary, my grandfather, I would say, what's the secret to such a long-lasting marriage? And he would say, a lack of initiative. So I wanted to ask you, what is your secret? I'm going to be married 15 years this summer, so I'd like to make it to 63. What is your secret?
Let me share mine first.
Okay.
when we got married, she told me I can make all the major decisions and she would make only the minor. So a couple months ago I said, how come I haven't been able to make a decision? She said, there haven't been any major decisions so far. I don't know what you would say, but just friendship too.
Yeah, we were friends first, and we like each other. And that's important because if you don't like your spouse, if you love them, it's different. So, yeah, we work together as a team as well, everything we've done. So that really cements things too. So
There you are, a team, and even going back to Tokyo.
yeah, we went back in September.
Wow.
When I told her we can't afford for her to go to the games, and found out she'd been crying, and I thought that was so cruel of me. I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I just did not realize going to the games was so important to you. And then she said, it's not. It's important to you. And I realized that we're a team. She was giving up her art career so I could pursue my dream. And it was like, wow, that's a true commitment she's making. She's giving up her dream so I could pursue my dream. So now I will do whatever I can to support her dreams. And there was friendship. Love was there, but it was the friendship. And I don't know how you would explain it.
It's the same.
And now the room that we're sitting in is surrounded with your art.
It is, yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing so much with us today. And this has meant a lot to me personally. I know it'll mean a lot to everyone in our community. When Jim from Greylock told me about you, it really excited me, and I've been learning about you, and I've been wanting to get together for a long time. So I really appreciate it. As we say at Greylock, I give you a big GGR. I don't know if you remember that, but I want to give you a big GGR and big thank you. Every mile matters.